Good evening once again. It's Friday evening, 10:30 p.m., and I'm your host tonight on Hold No Bars, Manzoor Nadir. Tonight, we're going to talk about a few things. One, registration, the duplicity of the government with respect to dual citizens, and we're also going to speak a bit about corruption. A lot of you have been calling in all weekend complimenting the first program we did, Hold No Bars, last Friday, and we did that on the issue of what is a majority. And I want to thank you for calling in on Friday evening and also all weekend. So it was a busy weekend for Hold No Bars, and your calls have been very encouraging. We've had a couple of callers who share different views, and it's their right to express their views just as it is your right to express yours. So thank you once again for a great start to this program, Hold No Bars, and this evening I'm going to keep checking the phones. The two landline my operator tell me there's a small little red dot on them, and we'll try to take as many calls as we can. Registration. GCOM is pressing ahead with preparations for house-to-house registration, in spite of the fact that this may not be covered by any law, in spite of the fact that 4 out of the 7 commissioners, only 4 out of the 7 commissioners voted to move ahead with house-to-house registration. One of the things with GCOM is that over the many, many years, we have striven to be a commission that operates via consensus, not split decision like the Supreme Court 2 Fridays ago, but looking to see how consensus could be arrived at. And in arriving at consensus, you end up with the least common denominator. And when in the early 90s, after the government change, I sat many times with other opposition parties then, looking at selecting the list of names that the opposition leader will send to the president, from which will be chosen one person to be the commissioner. Even at that stage, the late President Hoyt, he asked for consensus. As the WPA, the United Force, the People's National Congress sat around the table to come up with a list of names for submission to the president. I know the Constitution says a list of 6 names not unacceptable to the president. So when we sat around the table, as soon as any one of us raised an objection or reservation, the name was dropped, regardless of how qualified, how respected, how meritorious that person was. The name was dropped. So I'm speaking to you from a position of quite a bit of experience in the issue of ensuring a Guyana Elections Commission that would respect the views of all stakeholders, especially the political parties, and striving to ensure that the decisions made at the commission level arrive from consensus. And the least amount of decisions were made by the chairperson, the chairman casting the votes. And so I go back to how the list was selected. I think it's going to be around May the 7th and 8th in Trinidad and Tobago. The CCJ will be deliberating on the issue of whether this chairman of the Elections Commission, James Patterson, this is a person who couldn't remember if he was ever a Chief Justice in Grenada or wherever he served in the past. I think at one time Patterson was in Antigua. So consensus was the watchword as we sent the opposition collectively sent names on to the president. And so, born out of that process, you had a commissioner, Mr. Hopkinson, and then you had a commissioner, Do Not Singh, and then you had Major General Joe Singh, another commissioner, Steve Surge Bali, all out of a mechanism that tried to reach consensus, agreement between all the political parties. Another feature which was brought into the process of preparing for elections was the issue of scrutineers. And scrutineers were first employed going into the 1997 elections. And 97, 107, 22 years, 30% of the population wasn't born. 1997, and maybe 10-15% of the voting population. So coming up to the 1997 elections, a lot of concerns were raised by the main opposition party then, the People's National Congress, about the issue of ensuring, one, that we have a credible list, two, that we had a system where voters could be identified, and so a voter ID card was implemented that was thrown out by the courts, and more particularly, the introduction of scrutineers. So your tax-paying dollars would have paid scrutineers who would have scrutinized the entire process. The entire process. From the hiring of people to the registering of voters and to the preparation of the voters list, right down to the issue of final day before voting. The scrutineers were, as they would use the word, ubiquitous. It's like air, it's free, and it's everywhere. So scrutineers were everywhere, but not free. Free to roam everywhere, free to scrutinize as every system, but your taxpayer dollars paid for the scrutineers. But you can call anytime. We're going to talk about corruption, we're going to talk about registration, and we're going to speak also about this dual citizenship. And I want to tie the dual citizenship. I leave that to last, and if we have to come back next week on it again, we will. But we're proceeding now with house-to-house registration. I'm giving you a little background on house-to-house registration and the scrutineering process. So every aspect of preparing for elections had party scrutineers paid for by your taxpayer dollars. Down to the fact of training, the selecting of people to be trained. So ads would go out everywhere. They'd be published in all the newspapers, all the positions, and then there would be a team. And here the parties had a chance to peruse, look at who is going to evaluate the persons selected for interviews. And everybody would be scored, and then the selection panel would choose people with the highest grade. But more particularly, every single applicant, every single person recommended or persons recommended for interview, every single application was sent to all parliamentary political parties. So you have this big issue of the hiring practices within GCOM, and maybe it's because of the trusting nature of the People's Progressive Party while in government. We didn't pay a lot of attention, perhaps. But I'm telling you, in the 90s, We had a system where 90s, I think up to about 8 years ago, where all the applications would be for employment would be circulated to all the political parties. The late Robert Williams, and I can speak from experience, as soon as those applications would come in, he would proceed to deliver to my office all of them. And Robert Williams was a commissioner who was nominated by the United Force at the time. So we would get a chance to peruse it, and we would get a chance to raise any objections that we had if a name we know had specific biases, and if a person who didn't score the highest, it's important, I'll come back to that, the person who didn't score the highest was recommended. And so there was this concerted effort, this collaborative effort, this unique effort by all parties to reach consensus in terms of the persons who will be manning the electoral machinery. And it went pretty good, except the court had ruled on the issue of a voter ID card, right, being unconstitutional and vitiating, canceling the elections for 97. So how does that differ from now? 8 years ago, yes, there was a little relaxing of the system, and the systems started to be manipulated. So I can give you numbers. In 2011, you had vacancies for over 12,000 election day workers. 12,000 election day workers, but scrutineers were all over the place. Let me just make sure that I keep the ringer on the phone. We had a few callers already coming in. My apologies to you who have been calling. And I have all the phones open. The two landline. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with the big question. Go ahead. Go ahead. Just 1 second. Let me get. I gotta get you on speaker here. Seem to not be able to get speaker. Sorry. Let me apologize to that caller. Okay. So what I'm doing is just giving you some of. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, you're on the air.
Go ahead.
I'm calling about it.
Okay. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm listening to your conversation regarding consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, with the PPP having their firm belief that you don't need house-to-house registration
Mm-hmm.
to have a good list,
Mm-hmm.
and the other side, the government side, is saying
Mm-hmm.
they need it
Mm-hmm.
because they might be, or they have the firm belief that they have a bad list.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have people who might not be able to be on a list.
Right.
How do you think there will ever have been consensus on that? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have two strong-headed groups who are of opposite opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's ever going to be consensus
Mm-hmm.
that one would cross over the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think consensus would ever have been reached. So that would not be something for them to do,
Mm-hmm.
or that can help the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like flogging a dead horse.
Okay.
And so somebody has to take the bull by the horn, if you use that term.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I think the house-to-house, since it was slated this year,
Mm-hmm.
I think they were supposed to have the house-to-house this year.
No, it wasn't slated.
If there was no confidence motion.
No, it wasn't slated.
I think
it wasn't slated. Let me correct you there.
because from what I was reading in the media, is that this year was the plan to have, a house-to-house registration in preparation for
When you
election
finish,
next year.
I will make my observation with respect to your comments. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, that's what I had read in the media. So maybe if I'm wrong, it would be because of what was
Published.
printed or published or discussed on TV or
Right.
whatever media. But given that, in the fact that the same excuse that was used, that GCOM didn't start early enough to prepare for general election since the no confidence motion was passed. I mean, don't you think it would be prudent that now that there is a firm belief that there might be election, it is towards the end of the year. So maybe GCOM is correct in having the preparation begin for the house-to-house, if they're going to have it anyhow. I don't know, but it seems like there might be some kind of a reason why the opposition would want to have this list being used. And people are of the varying views that, the opposition is trying to bring back people who are foreign so that they could get past the 5,000 that difference they would have had in the 2015 election. Nothing wrong with that. It's all politicking. It's part of the process. You try to take your advantage where you can get it. So I don't know, if that is the real reason why this list is so important to the opposition, that they want to have it and not have a new list. In terms of dual citizenship, for example, if people would have gone abroad and lived, they chose to live, that is their right. But you can't serve two masters. I never believe in that. So if you're living foreign and you're accepting that you're a green card, you can still come back here, yes, but you need to spend that time in that foreign country. That is fine. That is that person's choice. But I don't believe that, people should hold dual citizenship and run this country. Because we talk about Guyana being a sovereign state. So you can't have that belief that you need to be a sovereign state, but you have foreign citizens dictating which laws should be applied or be amended or construed here in Guyana. You have to choose which one you want to be.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer you cannot have dual citizens serving our country in the National Assembly at the highest office of the land.
Thanks a lot. If you want, you can stay online. I just want to make some observations with respect to the two issues.
You and I can always call back.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. To that caller, and information sharing is very important because it could clear up a few issues. Let me take this call. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with a big question. Sorry, not. I do two programs, so I'm going to get. This one is Hold No Bars. Go ahead. You're on the air. Okay. So, with respect to that caller, the first caller, right? The suspicion that the PPP doesn't want house-to-house registration because it wants to bring back people. Look, all of us in Parliament agreed on a process of continuous registration. And the process outlined was this. The General Registrar's Office will take off all the dead people by sending an official list from the Registrar's Office to GCOM. And that is the authority for GCOM to take people who are dead off the list. Every year, literally every year, a period of registration is opened up, and anyone 14 years as of the qualifying date can get an ID card and get onto the National Register of Registrants. And from that register is extracted, whenever there's an election, local government or national election, any person who is 18 years of age so that they could vote. And people would migrate, not necessarily holding dual citizenship. Persons may get a visa and they would go away, work a few months and come back. we're going, and every year the U.S. Embassy said they gave out almost 10 to 11,000 visas. And some said that that was a system to help rebalance the population. I don't know. But once you're a Guyanese citizen, you're 18 years, you're eligible to vote. This issue of dual citizenship and serving two masters, our diaspora, the 700,000 Guyanese who live in the main cities of North America and some further afield, they send home in remittances over $500 million, more than rice, more than sugar, more than gold to this country. So we want the diaspora to help us to build, to come and invest, but we don't want them to vote. So that's my take on it. And I'll tell you, Dr. Jagan used to say, once I get the ballots counted at the place of poll, and I have that result pasted on the statement of poll, you could do whatever you want with the ballots after. Count it at the place of poll, right? And bring the list. And most of the democratic countries around the world will have this period of continuous registration, but they do take off persons who die. They take off persons who die. So let's go back to the calls. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead. You're on the air. Okay. If you're not ready, okay. A couple of rules we're going to have to make, right? Turn down the television when you call. Yes, just hold a second. We're just setting some of the ground rules. A lot of calls come in, lots of calls. So you're going to have to turn down the television. And when we get to you, you're going to also have to be ready to speak. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was the first caller.
Sorry, first caller.
I want to take the conversation a little bit extra with what you just said.
Yeah.
That you believe that if people, travel abroad, they should be able to vote and come home to vote. So why not open it where people, if you want the diaspora to the music pass. But
okay.
If you want the diaspora to vote here, why not open it to all countries that diaspora lives in and let them vote for the embassies in those countries?
Yeah, because
that all of them on equal footing.
I'll tell you why. Because that was the system that caused massive rigging, right? Most of the votes came for one party. So let's take another call. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hello?
Okay. So, operator will have to help us. He says there's a red light supposed to be blinking. I don't see the red light on the landlines. So there's an... Hi, good evening. You're on the air with a with Hold No Bars. Go ahead.
I got cut off just now, so I was talking about...
Okay, but here, we got to give some other callers a chance to come through, right? We could later on. Good, take it. Okay, go ahead. Right, so let's... didn't want to engage in a conversation between two persons dominating the program because a lot of callers are coming through already. We've had a full screen of phones. Here we go. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with a big question. Go ahead. No, hold on. You have to excuse me, right? I do a program Tuesday night, and I do this one. This is Hold No Bars. You get a chance to speak your mind. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm enjoying your program. Something good you do it, right? We have a vehicle start campaigning election on Main Street. For Extra Mobile. Vehicle number is PWW for 214. Register from Sir Taxi Service. Driver for that vehicle will be informed by codes on Main Street and cause send down Indians nasty with the PP government. And this vehicle fetching Extra Mobile workers.
So he has a contract fetching some workers from
Extra Mobile.
But you can't prove that, right?
Yes, this camera is to prove if my codes on Main Street, the vehicle number is PWW on 214.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm sure if any foreign company that is happening with any contractor, they would certainly stop using that service. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with Hold No Bars.
Good night.
Good evening.
Why you don't know your fucking business?
Okay, so we don't have a delay broadcast, so some of these might slip through. So we're going to have to be very careful. You know, there are a lot of rules, censorship rules that we have to observe. And yes, you mightn't agree with what we have to say, but you know what, my dear? We can build Guyana with respect for views rather than becoming abusive. And Carter said in 1992, those who take to the streets and cause ructions, we know they're losers. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Hi, good night.
Good evening. Okay, the rule is you got to turn down the television. I'm cutting you off, right? Because we can't irritate the ears of other people. So, an operator has to help me with the telephone. Hi, good evening.
Good night, sir.
You got to turn down that phone. I'll cut you off that television. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The person that called you just now and just cussed you there,
Uh-huh.
they disrespect you. You got to be one of a PNC people left.
Thanks
Why
a
they
lot.
not cuss you until you go in your bed?
Okay.
There's reckless, ignorant person them the one.
Mm-hmm.
They
The
are
days
more
of bullying
destructive
finish.
element people them.
The days of bullying finish.
I'm telling you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
They are disrespect you there.
Thanks a lot.
Why, if was a black man, I wouldn't tell you so.
Thanks a lot for your concern and your
You
kind
understand me?
comments.
And
Good.
you should get the number.
Yeah. Here, that person is the loser. You know, I'm
I know
sure.
they is the loser, but them ignorant.
Well, maybe they should wallow in their ignorance. But let's
You
continue.
understand? They're
Let's
mentally disturbed.
let's get even by getting ahead.
They got the country so sore.
let's get even by getting ahead, right?
I know.
Take care. Good night.
But you too.
Thanks.
Take care.
Hi. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Hold no bars. Go ahead.
You know, we sit down and watch these programs and see when people get on the air and try to disrespect us, or say just now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a program like this, when people can call and express themselves
Mm-hmm.
over general elections and their problem. I know Chinese have been living overseas for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
have double nationality, and here back again after 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back.
The way to express yourself is voting. That's the first thing. People have to come out and vote
Mm-hmm.
and able to express themselves, be it PPP or be it PNC, APNU, whatever issue. The way to express yourself is through your vote.
Mm-hmm.
And when people get on the air and use these type of languages, as the young man said, that number, as long as it shows up in the screen, you should make a report.
Mm-hmm.
And get people like them off of the air. If they don't want to be on the air molesting people like you that has a program,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to tell you it's a very good program. I'm sitting here like looking at it.
Thank you.
Well, let them keep their opinions for themselves and let other people make their opinions. Have a good evening.
You too, sir. Okay, so we have quite a few calls coming in. We're having an issue with the telephone lines, and I don't know what that is, but the cell phone is working quite well. Go ahead. You're on the air with Hold No Bars.
Hello.
Good evening. You have to turn down the TV, I'll cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm actually why I don't stop this racism nonsense and get right.
Go ahead.
Because we all would love and get right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say,
Okay, we just lost that caller there. Quite a few calls are coming through, so here, let's be very considerate of the persons calling in, turn down the TV, and speak up. Hi, good evening, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I think only few weeks around this country.
Thank you.
Bring it back.
Uh-huh. Any other comments?
That I have to say.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so that's a supporter of the PPP. Firm belief only the PPP can run this country. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. Good
You see
evening.
that person who called you there just now?
Uh-huh.
And cursed you?
Uh-huh.
You see that person who called you there just now and cursed you?
Uh-huh. I'm listening.
Them people are hungry.
Okay, but don't let me get, don't let,
They have not got education.
don't let's
Them
get,
and them that hungry and they're ignorant.
thanks for your
Thank you
concern.
very much.
Great. Okay, operator. Hi. Okay, seem to be getting it now. All right. And here, quite a few messages are coming through, and I really want to thank the caller for using the abusiveness because it's making the show even more popular. Go ahead. You're on the air. Hold no box.
Hello. Hi.
Go ahead.
Now I just come from the man there. But she
Uh-oh.
just sit on get away from what to tell you something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you.
Thank you very much.
That they want to rig the election and know what they want to do.
How was Monday tonight?
May you remember what they do when born and do what they throw the people in the river and do everything and throw them with the ballot box and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They know that's what they do, so they want to do the same thing, but they can't get through. They can't pick the see our cup and all that they drinking the cup.
Thank you very much.
Only everybody drinking cup.
Thank you. Okay, so thank that person who called in earlier. I think you see the calls coming in. One out of many, many. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm calling concerning the program. It doesn't matter whoever you may try these calling program or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter whoever you put there.
Mm-hmm.
You find that they're not satisfying you because there are forces that working in those in high position of power that you and I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
The real power is not up and it's down, is inside of us.
Okay.
So what we need to do is to get ourselves and our act together, learning to love each other and understand each other, and then we goes on from there. It doesn't matter this program and that program, whole election or whatever. Because as I said before, doesn't matter whoever you put there, you will find they're not satisfying you because there are forces that working in those in high position of power. You and I know nothing about. That's all I have to
Thanks a lot.
contribute.
Take care. Okay, so you have to keep trying. Lots of calls are coming in on the landline and also on the cell phone. Go ahead. You're on. Go ahead. Okay, I'll cut you off. I'll cut you off. Once I hear that annoying song, it means there's feedback. Your television is too high. I'll cut you off, right? So just turn the television down a bit or walk away from the television so you can still hear yourself a bit. Walk away and you will hear. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello.
Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I see them racism thing. Yeah, I want to practice in them thing to make in young people get themselves in problem. Yeah, I want to sell yeah, I can't want to practice them racism on the year. Yeah, I got focus. It's election time and them thing and bring riot.
Okay, so that's the view of one person that racism is being practiced. I didn't hear the evening anybody call race. I heard profanities, right? So, all who went to Mandir, you know what is the outcome after you fast, cleansing and things like that. We'll have to pray for those persons too, right? But tonight we're going to talk and we'll continue to speak about registration. It's the right of everybody to understand the system, to know the system. Hi, go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I hear people calling in there and, trying to call people hungry and all sorts of names.
Correct.
Well, if a person calling an abuse, you don't encourage other person to call in and to try to disregard this, call with PPP and with black and with PNC. And
I
that
agree
is not
with you.
right. You since they start with that, you cut them off.
Yeah.
And don't continue that conversation because it comes to everybody. If you're taking a call, you have to let they show respect to every person.
Thank
Whether
you.
that person think you bless that person by saying something and continue to do something good, but don't encourage them to say this body hungry, this body is the black man or PPP and it was a black man. No, that is racism. And that should stop. You're an educated person, you should know better than that.
And that's why I said to them, let's get even by getting ahead, not calling.
Yes,
people.
when you see the call and they try to disgrace somebody else, stop it.
Thank you.
Stop the call.
Thanks for calling. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars, you're on the air. Okay, the persons went off. So let us keep the program quite civil, respectful, and let us share our views as the first caller. And I had a good, healthy exchange. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with Hold No Bars.
Turn the show.
Go ahead, go ahead.
The need to stop with the racism thing, but PNC and Barnum. It's not about Mr. Ranger. It's not about Jagdeo. It's about the people for the country.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Okay, great. So we've had some callers on all sides. Let us keep it civil, respectful, and let us show that we can rise above some of the nastiness in our society. Hi, good evening. You're on the air with Hold No Bars.
Hello, sir.
Good evening.
Everything.
Well, we have to make it the best we can given all that's around us and within us.
I respect what you're saying that I was, boss.
Go ahead.
Everything. I just call for you respect that I was.
Respect for you too, and have a good evening and a good weekend. Thanks. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Nadir.
Uh-huh.
My father died. My mother died.
Uh-huh.
My brother died.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that these names indeed should be taken off the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a correct list. But at the same time, the message that I would like to get over is that let children identify, because my mother did not register at the registry when she died. My brother did not register my father. How will the registry know that they died?
Well, there have to be a death certificate before somebody gets buried, right? And if you have anyone has a death certificate and they know that their relative is still on the list, there's something called a claims and objections period. So you don't have to go for a full house to house, right? Then you can go with the death certificate and make an objection so that the name could come off. So if a name slipped through and GRO, the registrar office didn't capture that name, there's another mechanism for taking the person off.
But what I'm saying is that many of these, I have encountered with some people that they use the coroner's report and use that as a death certificate, and it is not a death certificate. And then my mother died about 10 or 15 years gone back. My father died about 10 or 15 years. My brother even, he was a fireman, he died about 20 years gone back. But these dead, I'm talking personally about our family.
So did you try to get those persons off the list?
It was never done.
No, but I'm saying if you have a person who you know is dead, especially a relative, when there was the claims and objections period, you would have had a responsibility to go to the Elections Commission office and say, hey, this is my proof that this person is dead. And I am making representation and objection so that that name could come off the list. And this is one of the reasons I want to do the programs like these, so that we could keep sharing information so persons can know what to do to make things right.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling, right?
Hello?
Yeah, thanks for calling. Let me take a few more calls. Thank you. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Say it as you see it. Okay, so that person left. They couldn't hold on any longer. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
You see this racism thing that you guys going on with? The PUP people them? They need to...
Well, I don't know the accusation of you guys, right? A person is calling an abuse. Person shares some other opinion. We try to, and as one person said to me, if callers are coming along that line, cut them off. Sorry to that person. I'm following good advice from a person who seemed to have a lot of experience. So let's continue with the We have WhatsApp messages come through too. Good evening, Mr. Nadir. I wish to state that there is no consensus when it comes to constitutional problems. For there to be consensus, you have to debate that in Parliament. And if there is no agreement, then the present constitution stands. Thank you very much, WhatsApp message, WhatsApp person. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Mr.
Hold no bars. Go ahead.
I just feel that what's happening is the government has an intent, a motive behind wanting house-to-house registration, which means, in my opinion, it suits them. And therefore, I feel that the people who are going to be hired to go house to house will be biased for the government's sake. And isn't there something that can be done that just like we go to vote at a certain day for election, can't we as a people go and register ourselves? Is this something that can be done?
Okay, when, if the GCOM had chosen to go the route of the continuous registration, then the voter would have had to go to an office, right?
Yeah.
An elections commission center and make representation for a transfer, for a change of name, to be added on the list if you're not on the list. With a house-to-house registration, GCOM now has to come to the registrant, the potential voter. GCOM has to come to them. And then you have to produce all your original source identity documents. That is a birth certificate or a passport.
But we still have the privilege of going to the office even if they come to the house-to-house?
No. You wouldn't have.
That's what I'm feeling suspicious about.
Okay, thanks for calling. Okay, that person. Okay, here we go again. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go. Okay, that noise is feedback. Lower the TV. Okay. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening, sir.
All right. I'm concerned about the convenience. I mean, the house-to-house registration. If my memory serves me well, we had it was budgeted for in 2019 to do the house-to-house registration. All right, and we had the no confidence vote that came up, and So I'm saying is that if this was budgeted for, if it was raised in the budget debate and we agreed to do it this year, we had the appeal court came in and to some extent nullified the no confidence. Why are we making this big fuss over the
house-to-house registration?
As if it is irrelevant, as if it is something that need not to be done.
Okay, let me just share with you and the viewers, the listeners too, this issue of budgeted for. Before something is budgeted for, the Elections Commission would agree. There was no agreement in 2018 for a house-to-house registration exercise to move forward in 2019, none whatsoever. In Parliament, when the Finance Minister presented a budget and defended the budget, and GCOM came up, he never mentioned the allocation. All he said is that the $3.5 billion was budgeted for GCOM, right? So this comment that it was budgeted for is not totally accurate, because there is no written document that says this budgeted amount for budget 2019, which was approved in late 2018, was for house-to-house. If you go on the Ministry of Finance website, the estimates are there, and normally they explain and they have a comment with respect to every allocated sum, and you would see nothing about house-to-house registration. So I'll make 2 points. No comment was made with respect to any written document or even a verbal defense in Parliament that this was house-to-house money. And secondly, there was no consent, no agreement. In fact, it wasn't on the agenda in 2018 that there will be a house-to-house registration in 2019. Right?
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so just setting that record straight. As far as I know, that's the record that's there in black and white. Hi, good evening. No, so, okay, here, the program gets a lot of calls, so you're gonna have to observe a couple of the rules, right? Now, let's be abusive. Do not let us keep the television loud when we call in, and be ready to speak. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi there, good evening.
Gosh, you so far you've been the best caller in terms of the cleanliness of the reception. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I just want to say this government is doing whatever they can, as well as GCOM, in order to buy time. Also, if we continue on with this government until their term is ended, the foreigners will not have to go through the back door to raid this country of its resources. They will walk right in the front door.
Thank you very much.
The people in this country need to pay attention to that.
Thanks
we
a
need
lot.
competent people to run this country, and I don't think we have that at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Right, Mr. Nadir.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't like the part you're not helping people to make the point, man. You're not allowing them to make the point. You're cutting them off.
I cut one person off because I'm listening to some advice from a very objective and sensible person. When you talk about race, let us drop that,
No,
right?
a lot of people call. I'm watching the program right now, but a lot of people call in and you're cutting them off before they make the point. I want to hear what
One person.
making.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I just said I want to hear the point that the people are making
Okay.
before you cut them off.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, so we have just about 12 minutes remaining on this evening's program. And let us see if we can take as many calls as possible. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good night.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. I got a little problem here, man, with the housing organization. They're so slow with me, you know. I used to squatter for almost years, you know. But I don't know what really going on. They're so slow, and they got me brains going in a different organization, you know. And every time they come about you.
Which area are you living in?
I always live in Sophia people,
But,
you know.
But Minister Patterson was in Sophia twice, and you had the big event in.
I tell you the same, Minister Patterson, all them full enough stars to get your brains and carry rating, but they know we ain't got them time with them organized with the certain time. We got time with work for we need help and need a move. We got pay for this land.
I'm confident.
We got pay for the land. They got to say we got to chop passage or this. I don't understand where we are. You're over 10 years, then 12 years in the system.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, thanks. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Manzoor.
Good evening, sir.
Nice seeing you in the air. It's a long time I didn't see you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I just called after that the no confidence, what they call it, a no confidence vote. I think it's a confidence vote, and when the voter all look out for happy, I think we should just change the whole constitution and go to a term. When people do a term, you know, when you're 5 years up, you're out. If it's 10 years, you do a 2-term, that's due time, you're out. I think that's supposed to be it, because when it comes to the constitution, God gave laws them and we don't obey it. So if man make laws, we could still break it and ask God for forgiveness. All right?
Thanks a lot. And there's a lot of merit in what you say. Some countries would give a president 7 years. You do your thing, you get full 7 years, and then you move. Okay, so yes, we still have quite a few callers coming through. Hi, good evening. It's Hold No Bars. Go ahead.
I have one contention.
Go ahead.
Everybody complaining about the government.
Under any administration, we still have to work hard, that's one. And two, under the PVP, a lot of youth died. And we haven't seen that under this government. And that's my take on it. The PVP sacrificed a lot of youth under this government. So what you are trying to do, I'm trying to make this government look bad. Look at the record of the PVP before you come and chastise this government. This government has had approximately close to 4 years. The PVP had 23 years. And what did they do in the 23 years other than drugs, murders in the land?
Thank you very much.
Take.
Okay. So we just have about 8 minutes remaining tonight, and we'll try and see if we can take 8 callers tonight for the rest of the program. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi.
Good
Hello,
evening.
good night.
Good evening.
These people that call it and molest you and curse you, they don't have no ambition.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay, so yeah. So we're gonna get all sides calling in. If you keep it respectful, we can get persons to share their views one way or the other. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hi, Manzoor.
Good evening.
How are you?
Quite well.
This matter with no confidence. Yeah. When even ago nowadays got nursery, what you call it, nursery school.
Right.
Well, me used to go be strong in me days. And even learned since then that 8 higher than 5 or 7. So 33 would have been more than 32. From since 2015, 33 is higher.
No, 2011.
These two people who you call them some high judge or what they do, me you know if they don't know math.
Okay. Well, thanks for the comment, right? We did a full program last week on that, and so go ahead.
These two judges supposed to go teach a nursery school now.
Okay, so let's move on from that now and take a few more callers. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Go ahead. Okay, so that person. Hi, good evening. Go ahead. Okay, so the calls are coming, but persons are a little bit impatient. Hold no bars. Tonight we speak of registration, dual citizens, and corruption. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Good night to you, and it's nice seeing you. And
good evening.
I just called to say my view.
Go ahead.
When election time meet, let's stop all this bickering and biting, and we just go there quietly, put our X to whoever we want to put it to, and let's keep running on. All these calling program and who. It's a whole lot of trash to me.
Okay.
Just wait until election time meet, and you go there and you put your X secretly to whoever you want to rule them, and whoever take power, you need to respect them for the next 5 years, and let things goes on in that way, not picking and biting this program, this body who coolie man, black man, and this man. It's a whole lot of trash. Let everybody start praying, man. We need prayer. Open some programs where we all need to come together and pray for each other. Don't try to bite each other and pretend and whatever. Let love prevail.
Thank you.
Good night and have a nice night.
Good night. Great. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead. Okay. So, 5 minutes to the end of the second program of Hold No Bars. Good evening. You're on the air. Good evening. Good evening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I think, as one man, I think a government of mass energy will work in this system, because when you find the two parties, the coalition going to take all, the PP going to take all. What needs to happen if a government, if a man running, if a party running, goes to the more seat, get the presidency. Whoever coming on the line gets seats, so it will be a mixture of all parties.
Not one party take on. I think the system to change some of the problems. Because one party come in everything they want. The other party come in out, they want everything. And this thing can't work. And a lot of people be crying out because a lot of people might go home when this party come in. When the other party come in, a lot of people go home. And then knock off our vacation be. And I think if the party get the most votes, get the presidency, she can vote the prime minister and so on and so forth.
Good.
That's my comment.
Thanks a lot. Hi, good evening. Okay. So that person, that's not the first time a comment like that has been made, and whenever we have constitutional reform representation, persons are free. Go ahead, you're on the air. Hi, go ahead, you're on the air, hold no bars.
Good night.
Good evening.
The person who called the lady said, get no it's right, she said to you.
Go ahead.
It's right, she's talking to you. That you can get the established race down and go straight to the poll and vote.
Great.
It's right, she's saying there, it's not wrong.
Thanks a lot. Okay, let's see if we can take just a few more callers on the last few minutes.
Sir, good night.
Good evening.
These guy that called just now and said what all the PvP kill a lot of young man. When the box down here, them burning up the road. The Linden now, people them burning up everybody holler in Linden. It's who been doing the work? Is the PvP been doing the work? When the PPD in power, right? These people them doing a lot of mischief. You understand me? When Buxton are the line up and burning up, is who been doing it?
Okay. Well, you have a good night and a good weekend. Thanks for calling.
Okay, sir.
Good. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to bring up a history with Burnham and Keegan. I think we should bless them for this country they are. I am thanking them a lot to bring our youth today for this lovely event.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bless Diana.
Thank you.
Always with love and continue doing that.
All the best. Great. So I'll take one final caller as we go down to 11:29, and we're closing in on the second program of Hold No Bars. Hi, you're going to be the final caller tonight. Go ahead. Go ahead. Hi, go ahead. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Nadir.
Good evening.
It was the other way around, right? Election would have done already. There would have been no household registration at all.
Great. And with that, I want to bring the curtains down on the second program of Hold No Bars, a program that will allow you, in a very civil manner, respectful manner, to share your views on the topic of the evening and any other issues that may be affecting you. Tonight, we did have an issue with one person in House Lot, Minister Adams, and they said they have been waiting for 12 years. So a House Lot issue did come up, concerns with respect to house-to-house registration, some information with respect to what was said in the press and what was not said in the press, and what was said in Parliament and what was not said in Parliament about house-to-house registration. But it's only 1 hour we have on the Friday evenings, 10:30 to 11:30, and this is now 11:30, and it leaves me to say, on behalf of Kevin, the operators, the management of MTV, and those who will rebroadcast this program, we want to say thanks for your calls, thanks for listening, and have a good evening and a great weekend. Thank you very much.